Chair,
Do you want to go there?
I don't.
Do you really want to go there?
Raul, we're going to go to break. Raul Reyes, thank you very much for joining us. I am going to move on. I'm going to move on because this is not a conversation about the tattoos. One of the other things that happened this week is that a California judge said that you can't just scoop people up and deport them without a warrant. And in that case, basically the judge is saying, you know, you're basically taking anybody who's in a particular area. If they don't want to talk to you, you're taking them, detaining them, and assuming that they are deportable, and that you can't really do that anymore.
What the judge is saying is nothing radical. This is basically comports with existing law. It comports with decades of decisions around this matter, which in like pure layman's basic terms means that ICE agents cannot go after people, arrest them and detain them solely on the basis of being having brown skin and being working class. And what was so interesting about this case for me is that the Border Patrol did not contest any of the allegations.
They actually claimed that they changed their guidelines.
Their response was just that they were going to do better training. And this issue is right in line with the Mr. Abrego Garcia case. It's a question of due process. Whatever we feel about Mr. Abrego Garcia, it's honestly irrelevant. It's a question for the immigration judge.
I mean, I believe in due process, but the thing is, depending on the country, the due process is that if you're illegally, they will send you back. It is like that on Curacao, my island. It is like that in Holland. It's not like that in Spain. They're more empathetic, but if you commit the crime...
On Mr. Garcia, we keep saying that there's no evidence that this guy belonged to a gang.
No evidence in court filings.
That's not true.
No, that is true.
Chair
Michael, that is true.
No.
Hold on.
We always have to play this game of interrupting people when they're talking.
But you're
saying... What is the point of me being on the show if I can never finish my freaking point?
Okay.
I have a dream.
This guy has a dream to be able to speak on CNN.
This is getting really annoying, Abby.
Hold on.
Everyone else has made their statements. I have yet to say anything.
Hold on a second, okay?
I mean, Jesus.
Hold on
Why
a
are you
second.
so angry? Because I want to say something, and I have a point of view to make clear as well.
Hang on just one second. Chair Michael, let me ask you a question. The question is, has the government presented evidence in court that Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13?
And my response...
And the answer is no, that has not happened in court. But it doesn't mean that they have not made those claims publicly. It doesn't mean that those claims are not in police reports.
In 2019...
It doesn't mean that they're not in police reports. They're just not statements that were made in a court case.
In 2019, the immigration judge at the time believed the Prince George's County gang unit and the evidence that they presented before that judge at the time that Mr. Garcia did indeed belong to a gang. This is not my opinion. People can Google this crap. They can Google this. CBS reported on this. If a judge believed it in 2019, is it now all of a sudden not true?
The judge granted him a withholding of removal.
No, I acknowledge that fact.
Which is a different issue. Hold on.
But the point remains that a judge found the evidence to be credible that Mr. Garcia did indeed belong to a gang.
I was about to say that. A judge did say that. And suddenly, no, that doesn't count anymore. We need another judge. That's why people are pissed. Because even America's own citizen doesn't get the opportunity to meet two judges. And that is why people are getting pissed. Because you give illegal people so many chances. And the border is freaking open. But you don't give your own citizen the same treatment. Adelo, remember to subscribe.
So now all of a sudden we're just not going to believe judges?
The judge...
I mean, we can't have it both ways.
I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but my only point is that the government has not presented beyond the police report. They have not actually presented the evidence to prove that he belonged to this gang.
So police reports not considered evidence before a court of law? Do judges not consider police reports? What are we saying
but
here?
Chair Michael, what was the original? I actually want Chair Michael to finish the point.
It absolutely is relevant to the argument from the administration, which is that Mr. Garcia belonged to a gang as one of the reasons of deporting him out of the country. And you guys are saying there's no truth to it. There's no facts to it. That's not true.
The Constitution is very clear. It does not say citizens. It says no person should be deprived of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without due process. It doesn't matter what he's done in his past. The Boston...
What? Oh, whoa. I I reacted the same. And it is because I'm black. It doesn't matter. It's like if my wife says, we treat every person good. So a random person can just enter my house and that counts as every person?
Wait a minute. Let me finish. The Boston bomber had due process.
Yeah, that's
okay?
a due process.
That's what this is about.
Wait,
I gave you time. Let me finish.
Go ahead,
okay?
go ahead.
This is a president who continues to twist the Constitution to adapt to whatever his vision is, to the point of the 2-year-old who was deported without due process, an American citizen. His father did not want him to go, and the only access he had to his daughter was listening to his daughter cry in the background in a 1-minute call. That 4-year-old did not get access to a doctor, despite the fact of having stage 4 cancer, did not have his medication with him when he was deported, an American citizen, to Honduras. This is what this president is doing. He is twisting the definition of the Constitution, and people like you are disparaging character to try to justify that disparaging.
I'm not disparaging due process does matter.
Did
You're
he
right
have
about
due
that.
process or
But
not?
The idea that Mr. Garcia's past doesn't matter is ludicrous.
To
But
the
we
due
live
process
in
currently,
a
absolutely.
sovereign nation, and this idea that people can just come into our country and do whatever the heck they want to do is absurd to me. And if Democrats want to die on this hill, I promise you'll regret it politically. So go right ahead.
Okay.
Go
Let me
right
let-
ahead.
for Americans.
Go
Dan,
right
let me
ahead.
let
We don't
Scott
want people breaking
have a
our laws
word.
coming into our country. That is a fact.
Let me let Scott.
I was very surprised when the lighter skinned guy was saying, yeah, we're ready to die on this hill for everybody, for all the American people. But by your justification, the fact that they're coming there, you're just saying our country is diverse. The moment you step here, you're American. I'm not saying that's not humble, but is it sustainable? Because somebody has to pay for it, and who pays more? The citizens.
It seems to me that the political analysis of this, though, is, and a lot of average people are looking at it this way, why is it that we can let 20 million people into the country just walk across, whatever, and there's no real process for them to do that, but then we have to individually pick out every single person and go through years upon years upon years of paperwork and this and that and the other, and all we're trying to do is send them back to where they came from because they came here illegally in the first place. 20 million in with no process. How do you get 20 million out with years and years of people fighting every single case? You could cherry pick any case you want.
I think a lot of people will come in. So many are going to take time to get out. And while waiting on the process, they must have the right to work. And once they have the right to work, there might be the possibility they can vote. So sooner or later, it's like getting way more voters than you can get out. So it's like, and when people say they're not voting, I'm like, yeah, might be possible, but your narrative is generally going in that direction that you wish they could vote.
But the reality is the crisis that put Donald Trump in the White House was caused over years and years and years of neglect and letting people walk into here without any process at all, and now you're trying to gum up the works to keep them here.
A lot of them came in. A lot of them came in with parole. A lot of them came in.
CNN polling shows 54% of Americans want Mr.
November
Rodrigo
polling
Garcia
showed Donald
back.
Trump won the
That's
election.
CNN polling.
The
public is shifting.
All right.
We are a sovereign
Guys.
nation, and you cannot just come into our country illegally whenever the heck you want, because we can't do it to any other country on the face of
Asylum
this
is
earth.
a legal
If
right.
you come in illegally,
Due
you have to
process.
leave.
You can't
Americans are
revoke due
tired of that. We
process.
do not have unlimited
You
resources.
know who was here
We have to
illegally
care
with a
for our own people
deportation order?
first.
Marco Rubio's
Okay.
grandfather.
All right. Let's.
We're not talking about
let's-
Marco Rubio.
Oh, now
Anna.
we're not? Now that's
No,
not relevant?
it's not
No,
relevant.
I'm talking
It's not
about
relevant
Marco
to this
Rubio because
conversation
Marco
at
Rubio
all.
used to be an advocate for TPS for Venezuelans, and Marco Rubio used
Well,
to
I'm
be
not Marco
an
Rubio,
advocate
and
for
let me
Nicaraguans
tell you
and
my
Cubans.
beliefs.
No, I
If you
know
come
you're
into
not.
this country illegally, you are going home. Simple as
Okay.
that. We do not
Listen,
have unlimited
I
resources
think
in
a
this
lot of
country
Americans-
to take care of other
There's
people.
a hell of
We
a
have
lot
our
of
own
people,
people
other than the
first,
black
Anna.
people who were brought here as slaves who came to this country illegally.
The whole idea that you want to compare people coming over the border illegally with slaves, like slaves were sold by their own people, because white people couldn't even enter Africa because it was filled with diseases that they were not immune to.
They're
from a
not
lot
the
of
same as
different...
black people who were brought here against our
That's
will.
exactly what I
They
just said.
decided
I
to
said
walk
there is
their
a
butts
lot of
across the
people
border. There's
other
a big
than the
difference.
black
There is
people.
a big
That's
difference.
exactly what I
There's a
just
big
said.
difference.
That's
Chair Michael,
exactly what I just
Chair
said,
Michael
Chair Michael.
and
Look and
Anna.
act indignant. That's
Okay.
exactly what
It's
I
not
just
about
said.
acting
I-
indignant.
Yes, it is.
let me
You
just-
heard me
Chair
say
Michael,
that's other than the black
Anna
people
and
who
Chair
came
Michael.
as
There's more
slaves.
high ground
There are
here.
a lot of people from
Chair
many,
Michael, I think
many
you
countries
actually
that came
misheard
here
what
illegally.
I think you misheard what she said.
No, he purposely misheard it.
She said.
I purposely
Yes, she
misheard.
did.
So now you're in my
Chair
brain?
Michael, listen to me for
Is
just a
that,
second.
is that where we're going?
You
Chair
think
Michael,
I would
listen to me
say
for a
I will
second.
have advocated
Anna,
for black
please
people
stop.
my entire life and
Anna,
say something like that?
Anna,
Give me a
Because
damn
you've
break.
advocated for black
Anna,
people,
please
great,
stop.
congratulations. Last time I checked, I'm black, you're not.
Okay, Chair Michael.
That's right. I'm Latino and my people are being racially
It is-
profiled.
it is-
and
And do I have to
unfairly
remind you the history of my people?
Chair
Do
Michael,
you want to go there?
No, I
Do
don't.
you really
Okay,
want to go
we're
there?
gonna
and
go to
know
break.
how
know the
grown?
history.
Raul, we're going to go to
You know
break.
why?
Raul
Because
Reyes, thank you very much for joining us.
People have
Everybody else,
discriminated against my
hang
own people
tight.
as well.
was not
We'll be right back.
erased when I was studying history like the test that you were
What in the world is going on?
I personally think that she got a little emotional, and when she was doing this with the hand how he talked to her, she decided to come back with something, and I think the comeback is so out of context.
hell of
Yeah,
a lot
hold
of
on,
people
guys.
other than the
First,
black
Anna.
people who were brought here as slaves who came to this country illegally.
You can't compare illegals with forced people sent to America and say, hey, you're just illegals too. What are we going to do? Compare them at the same level? Should we send you also back? The whole idea that you put them in the same group, it's like you're saying, I don't recognize your pain. You're at this level. Then again, in Sanctuary City, where there was a lot of black people suffering a little because there was no money, they saw other people come over illegally and stay in 5-star hotel. So yeah, the empty brush isn't very fair to black people these days. And I just find it a little odd that it's happening on CNN.
Don't get me wrong, makosa kita bong. Put the fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam. Durloqueta verdeta welcome.